Crowdsourcing, just to, as a community, you can bring them together. I mean, the ideal is to bring them together to actually build something new. And I think translation is one that I think many people already know about. And creating content, I think I'll go into as well. Um, Site translation, I think has been done with many sites. It's been done very well by Facebook. I don't know if you've seen the news that they're actually trying to patent this. But yeah, our experience with crowdsourcing has actually been relatively mixed. We're still big believers in it, but we're also very aware of, I guess, some of the shortcomings. So, as you can imagine with a Web 2.0 website, you're constantly putting up new versions. You're trying to, update the website, and inevitably, you put up a new version, and suddenly, 20% of your site is now, not translated anymore. So you have this sort of constant, not only the constant beta, but there's sort of like a constant work in progress. And of course, the problem with crowdsourcing is that you don't always get the quality that you want, at the speed that you want. And how you design the system for crowdsourcing is critical. Whether or not you can make it really easy for for users to step in and provide a little bit of time to making the system better. Well, how do you deal with vandals? How do you deal with people who are who maybe are just wrong? And just how do you control that quality? And I can give you many examples. I'm sure all of you can imagine how you translate press in English, which sounds like the media, but in another language might turn into something like how to push someone down, or native speaker, how that turns into stereo speaker. There are plenty of mistakes like this that that your system has to be able to vote out, or somehow quality control for. In terms of creating content, I think this is where a lot of the controversy comes from. We made our first attempts at creating a community sort of generated content for language learning based on responses from our users. When we first started out, many people were saying, well, I have language partners, but actually I need a little bit of material to work with. And I think that there is this dream, and I think that it's funny that Jason calls it frippy, because it is a little bit, I think it is a little bit flaky, but on the other hand, I think there's something to it. Can you create something that's like free language learning materials, on something like Creative Commons licenses with universal access and the ability to people to actually modify and to improve it? I think that this is actually, it's not just us, it's not just, some companies on the side. I mean, it's really a lot of big organizations are working to make this happen. And I'm sure many of you have seen the MIT OpenCourseWare, or Connections, which is actually a Rice University initiative. And of course, you've seen Wikipedia and their initiatives. I think this is there's a lot of effort being put into this, and I think that maybe it's just a matter of time before we actually see really fantastic materials. I mean, I'm sure many of you remember, or when Wikipedia first started out, I mean, it was widely considered a joke, and then now you can see the the powerhouse that Wikipedia is now. So. Our experience with our wiki, to be totally honest, and uploading documents is, has been mixed again. Is it better than nothing? I think, yeah, it's actually managed to help some people. You have a few gems in there, but again, it is a work in progress, and we are at very early stages on building this. I think on a larger question that Jason brought up is very well is that, yeah, you have this sort of, is an expert created content, is it better than a community created sort of solution? And I think that, we all agree that, the expert has, in general, more experience, it has a better answer, especially coming out of the gate. But, a lot of those are, of course, financially driven, whereas the community is much more of a sort of best effort. And especially at the start, there's much higher chances for errors, and how quickly this can actually be turned out, will depend on the size of the community and how well you've incentivized people to create this. But whether or not actually, is there a question even that it's actually possible? And I think that, if you would ask people whether or not it was possible to crowdsource an encyclopedia, 10 years ago, I think people might have had some questions. Today we ask, can you even crowdsource a novel? And would you, if you could, would you want to read it? And I think that, that's highly debatable. But if you were to ask the question about, language learning materials and where does that fall in? On one hand, we can see that Wikipedia works reasonably well for all of its faults. And on the other hand, you have something that is very personal and very creative on the other side. And and I think that actually there's probably, language learning maybe is somewhere in there given, the number of the different ways you can teach a language, or, the different, methodologies and the, I mean, it's somewhere there. So I think, looking forward in terms of the future of crowdsourcing, I think that, we should be looking at things such as open standards and not just, can one company or can one institution control this, but if you use Creative Commons licenses, especially ones that are, that allow for sharing and for remixing, I mean, I think that what you'll see is that these materials will improve over time. And it's not just one community, it's, many communities and many sites working together to try and put this, to create something that's, that works. One area where I see iTalkI potentially could play a role is in potentially localizing and disseminating those materials. Again, the materials are wonderful for MIT OpenCourseWare and, what's coming out in Connections, but, where is the, where is the Arabic version of these materials, or where is, smaller languages? And I think that's one thing that a community can actually play a large role in. If you have a large and active community and, a community that's actually interested in these materials, I think that, over time you'll see that these can actually be, improved. So, I'm not dropping the frippy dream, I guess, of, that one day we'll have these, free, high quality, language learning materials available in every language pair. So, yeah, I guess that's kind of, I think that's kind of our philosophical take on, the future of crowdsourcing. So, thanks again for the attention, and yeah, I guess I'll take the questions at the end.